And we're back. You're listening to the Talking Boxer with Billy C. Show. Glad you could join us. And speaking of joining us, don't forget about following us on Twitter. It's easy. It's at Talkin Boxing. TalkinBoxing. We're looking to get 10,000 followers. We're more than halfway there. And if you're following us already, get somebody else to follow us. Get some of your friends or your family. If you're not following us, follow us. And then get some of your friends and family to follow us. We'd appreciate it. And another thing I'd appreciate is if you get a copy of my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now, where all good books are sold. And I mean, you can get it right now. All you got to do is go to Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. I think everyone should get a copy of Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, for themselves and everyone on your Christmas list. It fits perfectly in a stocking. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, man. You should get at least a dozen copies and give them out. It's a great read. It really is. Joining us right now is boxing's best photographer, the beautiful Emily Harney. What's up, Emily?
How you doing?
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad. I would ask you your thoughts on Yusef Mack starring in a gay porn movie, but I won't. I won't put you on the spot for that.
Hey, I'm not gonna knock anybody for what they choose to do. Just if that's what he really chose to do, then stand behind it. I don't knock anybody for their choices at all, but you got to stand up for what you've done and not run from it if that's what he's really doing.
Exactly, and like I just said before. If this would have taken place 20 years ago or more, I could see it being a major thing. But what has come out lately, and no pun intended, but what's happening in our world today, this is nothing. At least I don't think I think it's bothering him more than anything. But geez, he says he needed some extra money. He's got 10 kids. I mean, that's a Vander Holyfield amount of kids. I mean, come on, right? Yeah, he's got to do something. He's got to do something.
But yeah, stand by what you do. It's you. Looks like you. And otherwise they did some really good doctoring to the footage, and I don't think they really spend that kind of money doctoring footage like that.
No, well, it's like Andrew Dice Clay said, when he did his nursery rhymes. Little boy blue, he needed the money, So, and I think that's pretty much similar to Yusef Mack. But let's get to something more serious. Let's talk about some of the fights. There's nothing really good to talk about from last week, but let's talk about the fights this week. We got a couple of really good ones. First and foremost, the biggest one on the schedule, really. Well, actually, there is one that's going to be. Pretty big over in England. I'll get to that in a second. But the one here in the States, Timothy Bradley against Bradley-Rios. I don't know what it is, Emily, but Timothy Bradley just doesn't get the respect that he deserves. I don't get it. I know we've talked about this in the past because, it's been going on for so long. But I like this fight. It's not getting the recognition it probably should. I like the fight, and I like Timothy Bradley. What's your thoughts? Let me just get your thoughts first on it before I dig a little deeper into it. What's your thoughts on the Bradley-Rios fight, itself, the matchup, and how do you think it's going to turn out?
Well, I definitely think it's a great matchup. I think these guys are in great positions to be fighting each other right now. I think they both have a lot, to prove against each other. I don't think it gets the hype that it deserves because, and I don't think Bradley gets the hype that he deserves because he's that kind of quiet fighter. He's not quiet in the ring, and he's not quiet when he has an interview and what have you, but he's not that guy that's out there on social media, running his mouth and what have you and getting, the amp up. And Rios, I feel like he could be that guy, but I think he has to be pushed to that. And you don't see that from somebody like Bradley. You'll see it in the ring, but, in terms of verbal jabs, I didn't really expect them from either of these two, and I think that's where you kind of lack the hype. Hopefully people will tune in to it because it is a great fight, but I think this fight could, it potentially could go in Rios' favor, but I just see Bradley having so much more ring skill that I think he's going to control the fight from the jump.
Timothy Bradley has spent or had spent his whole career, pretty much his whole career, with one trainer, Joel Diaz, And before this fight, he got rid of Joel Diaz because of some pressure from the rest of the management team. They ended on a good note. Both guys very respective of each other. And he signed on with Teddy Atlas. Now, Teddy Atlas, we all know him from ESPN. And like I was saying on the show yesterday, I think he would have been the perfect guy to run our amateur program here in the United States, USA Boxing. But as a pro trainer, I never thought the guy was anything good. Michael Mora, he had the famous lines in the corner and stuff, but Michael Mora has said to this day that he screwed him up. What he did with Alexander Povetkin, he tore the guy down. The guy was a fight. As a matter of fact, he was ready to fight for the world title, and Teddy Atlas tells him not to. And we saw the worst Povetkin ever for a couple of fights while he was with him. He finally got back on track. With all of that said, and the dominating personality that Teddy has, and the fact that he seems to want to tear down a fighter and build him up to everything he knows. How do you think Timothy Bradley is going to adjust to him, considering that this is a guy that's already been a world champion, really has one blemish on his whole record? Is this going to be a good mix? Do you think he's going to benefit from it, or is it going to become chaotic in that corner?
Well, I think this is where we figure out, and maybe Timothy figures out, if what he learned from his previous training, he can take what Teddy tells him and to mix them together and become a better fighter. When guys go to somebody like Freddie Roach, on a totally different level than Teddy Atlas, but when guys go to somebody like Freddie Roach, they've already been seasoned in a way, and they come to Freddie, and the things that need to be brought out of them are brought out of them, and they become better fighters. I'm hoping that with somebody like Timothy Bradley and Teddy Atlas, because Timothy is a smart, and I'm not saying these other guys aren't, but he just seems like he has a very tactical mind, that hopefully what Teddy says to him, one, his craziness isn't going to drive him nuts, and, Timothy won't perform to where he can, but two, he can take what Atlas says and use it, but not let any of the nonsense get to him, because there could be chaos in that corner. But I do believe that Timothy is the type of fighter that can hold his own. I just think mentally he's strong, and I think he'll be able to withstand any nutso stuff that potentially could happen. Now, if he changes up everything, that might be a problem. But I just don't think he's that type of fighter. I really think he's going to be able to take what he already has and mix it up with what Atlas can give him and become a better fighter. I hope. And I want to see. I really do believe he has the pieces to beat Rios.
Emily, I've always thought that Timothy Bradley is one of the best fighters pound for pound out there, and he doesn't get the love from the fans. They look at him sort of like a Lamont Peterson. People think this guy is an ordinary fighter, even though I think Bradley is way better than Lamont Peterson. I think his negative, and I'm not going to blame it on his training staff, his prior training staff. His big negative, his fault, is that he gets too wrapped up in a fight. In other words, if a guy stands toe-to-toe with him, rather than use his boxing skill, which he has, he'll stand toe-to-toe in exchange. I think that's his weakest point. So with that said, if Teddy Atlas can help him be more disciplined, then I could see it working. If Timothy Bradley had no defensive ability, if he had no head movement, et cetera, and Teddy comes in, I think he could help him there. But this is a guy that possessed those skill sets. And I think it's going to all boil down to, in between rounds, is he going to listen to Teddy Atlas, or is he just going to be the same Timothy Bradley that he always is? He gets pulled out of his game plan.
Yeah, I really hope he's able to mix and match what he's got and what Teddy can give him and beat Rios. But I do think it's going to go the distance. I don't see it being that early fight, or unless somebody gets cut.
Yeah, well, unlike, you see, both Freddie Roach and Teddy Atlas are similar in a way because they teach their style. if you're, this is why to this day I'm surprised that Prodanikov didn't work out well with Freddie Roach, because he fights the Freddie Roach style. He's a come at you, offensive minded fighter, and that's what Freddie Roach's fighters seem to, his successful ones, that's what they seem to do. Teddy Atlas is the old school Mike Tyson, bob and weave, the Customado style. He tries to get everybody to fight that way. The guy that I give the most credit to for taking fighters on that are established was the late Manny Stewart. He was a guy that took out the strengths of his fighters and capitalized on them. He didn't try to change anything like Freddie and Teddy seem to do. At least that's the way I see it.
Yeah, Stewart's in a class of his own. I feel like you can't even compare him to those two guys. So, like I said, I just feel like as long as Timothy has his head game right, he can take what Atlas gives him and mix them together. But, if he, again, switches it all up for a different style, I don't know if it works to his benefit, because he's already got the key points that he needs. He just needs to tighten up certain things.
Bam Bam Rios is a guy that is always exciting. I love watching him. I'm a big fan of Bam Bam Rios. I know he says some crazy things at times, and it is what it is. But he's a fun guy to watch. But I question, although I really like Garcia as a trainer, and I like the relationship that those two guys have. I question the dedication, or at least the discipline part of Bam Bam Rios, because to be honest with you, Emily, I think he's fighting out of his weight class. I don't really think he's a legitimate welterweight. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, somebody else said that to me too, and I think they're right. I think he doesn't benefit at that weight class. I think that's a struggle for him, and I think he's been in this game a while too, where maybe some of the lifestyle gets to him as well. Maybe that dedication to the game is I don't want to say questioned, but it doesn't always come first. So that might have an effect on him too, but maybe not. I mean, this potentially could put him in a great position for an even bigger fight if he beats Bradley.
Oh, I think Rios is back in the mix if he can beat Bradley. That's for sure. But it's going to be an interesting fight. I think it's going to boil down. I think discipline is the key in this fight for both of these fighters, Emily, because if Timothy Bradley can be disciplined in a sense where he doesn't let Rios suck him into a phone booth type fight, he's going to put his boxing skill on display, and Teddy Atlas is going to look great. If he does get sucked into a brawl, he still may come out on top, but I just don't think that it's the smart fight. I think that if he fights in the phone booth, that's Rios' only chance. I can't see Rios chasing him around and knocking him out with one punch. I don't see that happening.
Oh, absolutely not. Definitely not. I think they get a fight in close quarters, and for Bradley to benefit from that. That's the way it's going to go. But I think these guys are going to bang. I really don't think there's going to be, a lot of running from either of them. I really think they're going to get in there and go at it. So that's what I'm hoping for, and I'm sure that's what the networks and the promoters are hoping for too, because there isn't a lot of hype around this fight.
No, I'm a little surprised, but I guess I shouldn't be surprised. It's a two recycle. It seems like a recycled fight, but the undercard, Vasily Lomachenko against Romulo Kosciasha, I think, or Koashia. You know me. I'm lucky I could say Emily, but what do you think about this fight? I mean, this is one of those fights where everybody's thinking Lomachenko. But I don't know if Lomachenko should go in here. Not that he's ever done this before, but I don't think he should go in underestimating his opponent. I'm leaning towards Lomachenko in an easy fight, but you never know. What's your thoughts on this one?
Well, I don't think you can ever underestimate anybody. And Romulo is he's not one that I think you overlook. And I think Lomachenko is a smart enough fighter to realize that, but he's young, so, sometimes you start believing the hype and, you don't take person in front of you as serious as you should. But I believe that he's smart enough to do that. But again, I don't know. I don't know his training regime. I don't see him much on social media. I mean, that's sometimes what you can tell what these people are doing and where they're out at. And to me, with other fighters, when they're in training camp, you don't see them out, at the pool or hitting the club for an hour and then going back. Like, they're in training camp and that's it. You might see their feet up at the end of the night watching some fight footage or something like that. But I think Lomachenko is in a good fight, but I hope he takes his opponent seriously.
There's a big fight. I've always said that I thought that England kind of carried boxing on its back. I mean, they all want to come over here and fight for the money and being on the major cable networks and stuff. But the one thing that I've always respected and admired about the boxing scene in England and UK in general is the fact that, they build up a domestic fighter and there may be another fighter that's, parallel with them, and they immediately put him in the ring. A big fight that's coming up, Anthony Joshua against Dylan White, two highly regarded heavyweights going at it. And I love that. And I don't see these guys either side, whether they win or lose much value. Well, this weekend we got a pretty big fight in the super middleweight division. Callum Smith going up against Rocky Fielding. Both of these guys are ranked, and you would think that the winner of this fight will move on to bigger and better things. And honestly, I don't think the loser drops down that much. What's your thoughts on this particular fight? And do you have a favorite in this one?
No, I don't know too much about either of these guys, but like you said, the one thing about, the European fight scene, whether it's in the UK or England, they have these fighters there that whether or not they come and they fight a Floyd Mayweather or they fight on HBO or whatever, they're still such big names, and they'll fight whoever. Like, it's almost like, the neighborhood's getting together to watch two guys that really have this amazing rivalry. When they walk into the ring, it's like Golovkin's walking into the ring, and these guys are, only a few fights in, but they create these exciting matchups between these, gentlemen and ladies. I've seen some exciting ladies fights over in Europe as well. But whether they win or lose, you see a guy back on the card maybe a month later or whenever else he's cleared to fight or she's cleared to fight, and they still get the same response. So it's a really unique fight scene over there compared to what you have over here. So really, like you said, I think either of these guys, whether they win or lose, you're going to see them back around unless something happens.
Yeah, it's an exciting fight. If you get a chance to watch that one, Emily, definitely do it, because you'll remember these guys and want to see more about them. I guarantee it. It's a good fight. It'll be a good fight. So anyway, pretty slow week for us here in the boxing world, at least what's being leaked out. So those are the big fights for the weekend. And I know you're not on next week, right? But the week after, right?
That's right.
Yeah, good. You're actually going to be on the week on our last show before we head out to do the pre and post fight for Canelo and Cotto, which ought to be decent. I'm looking forward to that. Now, you're going to be out in Vegas for that?
I am not going to be out in Vegas for that. There was talk about it, but I think I'm going to be out here for that weekend. I think I'm shooting hurling. If anybody's ever heard of hurling, fill me in. I don't know too much about it, but it's hurling.
hurling, like the Olympic sport, hurling?
No, you're thinking of curling.
Oh, curling. Yeah.
Curling is like, it sounds like it's an extreme field hockey. So we'll see. It'll be at Fenway Park, so that makes it all worth it.
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm thinking of curling with the ice, right? They shovel a path. I've always wondered what's up with that. You got the one guy shoveling a path, the other one's like blowing on this thing to move it. It's like, what the hell? What is it? I don't know. It's pretty funny, but they're very serious about that stuff. So anybody that's a curler, I'm not against it or anything. But Emily,
absolutely found it interesting. But boxing's my thing. But unfortunately, I'll miss that fight. I'll be watching it on TV. So. Hey,
listen, don't feel bad with your hurling thing. I actually earlier this year, and I kid you not, I went and called. all right, called, like I call fights, right? I called a barbecue contest, and it was some serious stuff. I went there. It was in what was the name of that lake in Florida? Some Okeechobee, right? It was Okeechobee, and it's a circuit, and I kid you not, these guys, it's the barbecue circuit is some serious business down south. It's like NASCAR, and you would not believe how many people came, and I literally had to, which I knew nothing about it. Had to learn it and meet these guys, and it was fun, man. So it's good doing different stuff, Emily. I mean, who knows? You might be a hurling expert. Hurling.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
Who would have thought I'd be a boxing expert? Although I don't consider myself an expert, but at least I watch it.
hey, back in the day, we used to call hurling when you had a little too much to drink. You know what I mean? So. Obviously,
yeah, I don't think I'll be photographing any of that, but
no,
you never know.
No, but I'm curious to know what it's about. So keep us posted, and we'll look forward to you next time.
Have a good week, guys.
All right, Emily, take care. That's boxing's best photographer, the beautiful Emily Harney. You could check her work out, and if you want to hire a photographer for any of your hurling needs, or more specifically boxing, check out our website, www.emilyharney.com.